Hi everyone, I am Meenakshi and I welcome you all to Tathastu. In this video, we are discussing a very important topic which is Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, or popularly known as the Women Reservation Bill. So we all know that the parliamentarians, MPs, has been shifted from the old parliament to the new parliament, and this is the first bill which was tabled in the new parliament, which is Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, or as I said, it is popularly known as the Women Reservation Bill. So in this video, we will be learning about this 27-year-long journey of this bill. Since this idea was first mooted in 1996, so we will be learning about why it took 27 years and some other important constitutional provisions related to the bill, some global comparison related to the women reservation. So let's start, but before that, these are the courses which are offered by Tathastu-ICS for all of you. There is MSLV, which specifically targets your mains examination. You can get yourself enrolled. Then there is NCERT module, you can register for it. Then there is PSLV, which will be launching very soon, and it will specifically target your prelims examination. And then there is philosophy optional. You can inquire about these courses on this contact number, as well as you can visit the office on this address. And if you want some other details, some other queries, you can check on Tathastu's website. So I hope you have got the information about the courses. Now let's begin with this Women Reservation Bill's discussion. What are the key provisions and what are some arguments in favor of it, some reasons for its opposition. So we will discuss all these aspects. So first of all, let's start with what are the key provisions of this bill. So this is Constitutional Amendment 128 Amendment Bill, which has been tabled in Parliament, and it has been introduced with regard to this women reservation. So the seat reservation, first of all, this bill particularly talks about the seat reservation, that 1/3, that means 33% of the seat should be reserved for women in just focus on the keyword. This 33% reservation talks about women's reservation, and that is our 1/3 of seat, women's reservation in the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies. So please focus that it talks about the reservation in the Lok Sabha, not the Rajya Sabha. If this type of questions come in your examination, the examiner might confuse you, so always pay attention to such small details, that the bill has been introduced to for this reservation, 33% reservation in the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies. I hope this much is clear and this much is important. Now, why it has not been introduced for this reservation in Rajya Sabha, we will be learning that also, but please focus on this one. The seat reservation talks about for the reservation in Lok Sabha and the state legislative assemblies. Now these reserved seats would be allocated through a rotational system. So we have different constituencies. What would be the procedure for that? So as such, a detailed procedure has not been mentioned. It just mentions that these seats may be allocated through this rotational system among various constituencies within the state or the union territory. Also, this bill talks about this Lok Sabha, state legislative assembly, and one more, national capital territory, that is Delhi. So it talks about reservation over these three places. Now this bill also has a sunset clause. What is a sunset clause? That the reservation of seats for the women would be effective for 15 years following the commencement of the act. So when this act is implemented, when this act is enacted, after 15 years, this reservation would cease to exist. So this is what sunset clause, it has this shelf life of 15 years. For now, it has been said that after 15 years of this amendment, of this enactment of this amendment act, it would cease to exist. And this bill also talks about introduction of new articles, which is 330A and 332A. So if we talk about article 330 only, it talks about reservations for SC and STs in the Lok Sabha, and if we talk about 332, it talks about the reservation in the legislative assemblies, SC and ST reservation in the legislative assembly. But there will be new articles which will be introduced, that is 330A and 332A. So these are the key provisions of the bill as of now. What would be the changes or what would be the provisions of this bill and how it would be introduced. Now moving on, what is the timeline? So this timeline is very recent, recent as in it is a 27-year long journey, not so recent also, but there's a brief historical timeline as well. So this idea was first in 1931. During the time of Indian national movement, there was this three women-led committee who sent this petition to the British PM to introduce this women reservation. But after that, when our constitution was being made, during these constituent assemblies, you see, there were lots of debates which were held during this constituent assembly, and when the Constituent Assembly debated about this women reservation, it was rejected. It was rejected on the ground that this would be discrimination. We are talking about giving equality to everyone, so we can't discriminate on the basis of gender. And similarly, there was one women legislator, and she was Hansa Mehta. She was from Bombay, and she also rejected this idea. Why she rejected this idea? That we don't want this. We don't want reservation. We want social justice. We want equality. We want liberty. Women have been suppressed for years. So what we want for us is a dignified life. We want this equal opportunity, not the reservation. We want that social justice which has been denied us for years. So that is what we want. Please don't give us reservation. Just treat us as equal, treat us as equal human beings. So this was said by Hansa Mehta. She was a legislator from Bombay. So this was the historical timeline before this particular timeline. So this was a recent timeline, as I said, of 27 years. So it has taken, this particular bill has taken 27 years to come in this present form, to come in this present shape. So in 1996, it was first introduced in 1996 during the Prime Ministership of H.D. Deve Gowda ji, and it was referred to a joint parliamentary committee over here. Then it was introduced, but of course it wasn't passed. Then it was introduced in 1988 and it failed to get support again and got lapsed. Then 1999, so year after year it was tried to get reservation for women, but ultimately it failed because there were various these sexist debates, comments, heated arguments. There were a lot of things which have gone during this particular period. So year after year there were attempts which were made to provide this reservation. Now we talk about next year, 1999, the bill was reintroduced by the NDA government at that time in the 13th Lok Sabha. So it was again introduced in 13th Lok Sabha, and subsequently it has been introduced in the year 2003 also. So you can see that attempts has been made. It is not new that this government is introducing. There were several attempts which have been made by the previous governments as well, but of course because of various reasons it could not be passed. Now in 2004 again the UPA government included it in common minimum program so that this bill can be passed, and during this time there was a committee known as the Geeta Mukherjee committee. There were a few recommendations made by this committee was in 1996 who recommended some changes that need to be introduced or some things which should be included in this women reservation bill. So few recommendations which were made by this committee, this 1996 Geeta Mukherjee committee, were included during this time. And then in 2010 the bill was passed in Rajya Sabha, but it lapsed in Lok Sabha, and since then there has been demand for reservation of women. So what this basic question, what was the idea? Since in Constituent Assembly it was rejected, see that we cannot discriminate on the basis of gender, there should be equal representation of all, and even Hansa Mehta rejected this idea that we don't want reservation. So why is the need? What is the need of providing this reservation for women at present time? So there's a thing to think about, that we have progressed so much, we are developing we have seen a team of ISRO scientists, right? In Chandrayaan-3, the women contributed a lot, and of course there are global leaders also. There are many things in which women are contributing, and when we have rejected this idea many years back, then what is the need to provide this reservation at present time? So we'll discuss this, and I hope you have got an idea, brief idea of timeline, that how it started. And if we compare about this 2010, this bill was introduced in this Rajya Sabha, passed in Rajya Sabha, but it lapsed in Lok Sabha. And if we talk about the comparison, what are the difference? There are no basic differences as of now. The key provisions remains the same, the sunset clause is same, and there this percentage, the quota, seat quota remains the same. Now let's move towards how soon can the bill come into effect. So we know that we have our elections next year, 2024 general election we have next year. So is it possible that that 33% seats should be reserved for women? The answer is no. No, it is not possible. Even if the bill gets passed, it is not possible to reserve the seat for the women in next year's election. Reason? Let's see the reason. So before the general elections of 2029, after 2024, as of this 5-year particular timeline, we will be having our next election, Lok Sabha elections, in 2029. So it doesn't seem possible, feasible or practical that before 2029 this act would be implemented, or this act would be in practice. There are reasons for it. Let's see the reason. What are the reasons? So first I'll read the reason for you, then I'll explain it. The reason is the 42nd amendment has put a hold on the delimitation process. Now focus on this word, delimitation. So the 42nd Amendment Act, second keyword is delimitation. So a hold has been put through this 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act on the delimitation process until the first census following the 2000s result were made public. So what does this mean? See, we have different states, and in different states you must be hearing about different constituencies. We have different, suppose this is UP, and we can say there are different constituencies and they have their own representative. Now who demarcates these constituencies? Who marks these constituencies that this is a particular constituency, this is the second one, this is the third one? Who do that? This is done by the Delimitation Commission. And at present scenario, if we talk about this Delimitation Commission, this Delimitation Act, these constituencies have been demarcated on the basis of 2001 census. Our latest census, if you know, you must be knowing, our latest census is 2011. After that, we the next census was scheduled in 2021, but it was postponed because of the COVID. And currently, if we talk about this delimitation, the demarcation of the constituencies, it is done on this 2001 census, and through this 42nd Amendment Act, it has been freezed, right? That this was extended, that this demarcation would continue for another 25 years on the basis of this census only. That means the demarcation would continue until 2026, and we have our election in 2024. So according to this Amendment Act, right now we can't implement this bill because the first delimitation would take place after 2026 on the first census, which would be released after 2026. Now here's the interesting thing. After, if we would have done this census, if this census would have been conducted in 2021, next delimitation would have been done in normal circumstances. We are talking about this in normal circumstances, if there was no COVID, and the census would have been conducted in 2021. Then after 2026, our next census would have been conducted in 2031, after 10 years. So this act says that after 2026, the first census, which would have been 2031, the delimitation would have been done on that basis. But there's a twist. There was COVID. This census was not conducted. We don't have any timeline for this census right now. So there's possible chance that this data starts from, this census starts from 2024, we have certain data, then 2025 we are there's certain data, and then this data is published in 2026 in the later period, or 2027. So there are high possibilities that in these circumstances this delimitation now would be done on the 2021 census. Otherwise it would have been, in normal circumstances, it would have been done on this 2031 census. I hope this much is clear to you, that why it can't be implemented. Simple, as I always say, we'll understand it in very one simple line, that the precondition is delimitation, but that limit is frozen by 42nd Amendment Act, and it would be done after 2026. So I hope this much is clear. Now let's move forward. What would be the process for this bill to be finally become a law? So what would be the process? We have these types of majority that passes a bill, then the bill receives President's assent, and then it becomes an act. So before that, what is the process for this bill? Let's see. First, both houses of the parliament need to pass the bill with special majority. Special majority is required. Now you tell me in comment section that what is special majority. And then according to provision of Article 368, which is related to the amendment, the Constitution Amendment Bill will require ratification of at least 50% of the states. Why would require this ratification? Because certain changes would be made, right? So definitely it requires their assent as well. So this will be done by special majority plus the consent of the state, and their consent is needed as it affects their right also, because the certain reservation, their state would be how the states would be represented in Lok Sabha. Particularly we are talking about Lok Sabha only. So this is the process how that bill would be passed, and then after both the houses have passed the bill, then it would be sent to the president. So I hope this is clear, the process is clear. Now let's move forward. Status of women reservation. Now let's compare. In the beginning only I have talked about this, that why do we need it? Because it was this idea was rejected years back, even by the Constituent Assembly, that we don't want to go back to certain time, we want to give equality and we can discriminate on the basis of gender. So why now? And let's talk about what the status of women representation in India and globally. So if we talk about the global position, global scenario, the women have vast underrepresentation in national politics. They have only about 24%. So there was this report of Inter-Parliamentary Union, and according to this report, only 24% of the parliamentarians were women. Now if we talk about equality, right, we talk that men and women should be equal, they should have equal right. So this is just a minor number. It is almost 1/4 of the total number, that only 24% of the women are parliamentarians over if we talk about globally, not even in India. We will discuss about India as well. And are there any provisions where there is a women reservation in other country? Yes, there are provisions. Philippines provide for reservation, and even Bangladesh and Pakistan have this women reservation before us. So these countries also have reservation for women. Then there is South Africa, and other than this, Nepal, South Korea and France provide for around 50% reservation. We are talking about, are there any provisions? We are talking provisions provided by other country for women reservation. And then we have Argentina, Mexico and Costa Rica, which provides around 36% representation. Now if we talk about Philippines, it has around 30% of this women representation in Southeast Asia, highest one. So if we talk about the provisions provided by the other countries, these are the countries. And if we talk about the highest percentage of women legislator in its parliament, so it is in Rwanda. It is an African country. So Rwanda has this highest percent of women legislators in its parliament with 49 of its 80 lower house seats are with women, are occupied by women, around 61% if we talk about. So highest position globally is occupied by Rwanda, but they have this historical reasons for it. There have been turmoil in their country before, and there was this genocide, and this genocide if there's genocide taking place, of course there are crimes against women, but more during this genocide men were more brutally attacked and killed during this period. And this is the reason that after this genocide the number of women was greater than men. So historically they have this also, that this reason also why they have around 61% women in their parliament. So this is about the global position. Now let's talk about India. So this is the data of India of Lok Sabha election from the first one to the 17th one. See, we started with around 22 members, and if we talk about percentage, it was 4%. But if we talk about present population, so if we talk, let's compare these last three Lok Sabha scenario. If we talk about the 14th, we have 8%. During the 15th Lok Sabha, 10%. And during the 16th Lok Sabha, it was hardly increased, it was only 11%, and presently we have 14.36%. So the present representation of women is 14.36%. if we talk about what is the representation right now without this reservation provision, it is only 14.36%. I hope this is clear. So see, from this first Lok Sabha till this 17th one, first Lok Sabha we had these around 4.5% women, and now we have these 14.36. Hardly, marginally we have developed so much in many aspects. We have developed, women are leading in many aspects, in many scenarios, but we have hardly developed over here. It's just a marginal increase of 10%, and globally we are way behind. And even this report, we were at around some 140th position. So we are way behind in this, where we can represent our women in parliament. So this is one of the reason why despite rejecting it many years back, we need it right now, so that we can have more and more representation of women in our parliament. So this was about the comparison globally. Now what constitutional amendments will be needed? So this article 82 and 170 of the constitution needs to be amended. What does article 82 say? It provides for readjustment of constituencies, that is their number and boundaries of both Lok Sabha and state assemblies after every census. Basically it deals with the delimitation, and this article 170 deals with the composition of our state legislative assemblies. So these both articles needs to be amended. Now moving towards, do we have reservation as of now in any field? Yes, we have, and I hope you know about 72 and 73 Constitutional Amendment Act. They provide reservation for women in panchayats, that is our PRI, Panchayati Raj Institution, and then our ULB, which is our urban local bodies. So WRB is seen as a logical extension. So we have provided this reservation during many years back, 1992-93, and it reserved 1/3 of all seats and chairperson post for women in our rural areas and urban local bodies. So we have this reservation, we have provided this reservation at the ground level democracy. At the local level we have this reservation, but at national level or state level we don't have it. So we are trying to implement this or introduce this women reservation. Now why not in Rajya Sabha? So in the beginning only I have said that it would be this reservation would be provided only in Lok Sabha and only in the legislative assemblies. Why not in this Rajya Sabha? For Lok Sabha we have this direct election, but in Rajya Sabha the current electoral system which employs the single transferable vote technique, this is one of the main obstacle to implement this Women Reservation Bill in Rajya Sabha, as many times this procedure is accused of this favoritism, that you would support your favorite candidate. Then what about this reservation? What about reserving seats for this particular group? Because if you promote your favorite candidate, then it will dilute this whole provision. So this is the reason why it has not been introduced for Rajya Sabha right now. Votes are allocated to favored candidates. This is one of the reasons, because of this single transferable vote system. They have accused that votes are allocated to the favorite candidates under this method, making it difficult to reserve seats for certain groups, because it will dilute the provision. Then what's the point if you are favoring your favorite candidate? So there's no point. So according to this single transferable vote, the voting system, this is considered one of the major obstacles why it can't be introduced or implemented in Rajya Sabha as of now. We can't talk about the future, let's talk of as of now, because many years back it was rejected, but now it is being introduced. So their future, the things keep changing. So let's talk about the other topic, which is why is this important? So why is this important? Why it is needed right now? What are the positives we can take away from this bill? So number one is step towards decriminalization of politics. So right now we have some male MPs, around 159 of them have these serious criminal charges of them. Some have these rape charges. There are many charges against these MPs. So it can be a step towards decriminalizing politics and introducing reducing this criminalization of politics, and we can introduce some women MPs. Then we have this ability of women leadership in bringing change. Now it has been proved by this the success of certain Panchayati Raj institution and ULBs, because many village areas, they are progressing effectively. So this is one of the reasons that after observing their success, it has been decided to introduce this. Then addressing crime against women. So women can understand women better. This is one thing that you can understand women better. And then you can understand that what are certain safety measures. When there's a women MP, she can understand that what are the safety measures. She can just put herself in that situation. She can understand it better, that what if I am in that place, what are the safety measures are needed, what are the requirements are needed. So of course she can make certain laws, she can make certain better laws, and they can address this crime against women. Now breaking the patriarchal mold of Indian politics is one such thing, because there has been sexist debate which revolve around these issues. There have been some distasteful comments around women MPs. So this is why one of the reasons that it would break this patriarchal mode, that only men deserve to be MPs. And lastly, improvement of economic performance and infrastructure. Yes, women can handle it better to some extent. So these are some of the positives which we can take away, or why this bill is needed as of now. Also we have seen one reason when we compared it globally, that we are way behind and we need it right now, so that women can their voice basically can reach to the lawmakers, where there can be certain changes which can be made. Now what are the arguments against this bill? Of course, if someone is promoting, then there's some person who are opposing, and there are certain arguments or there are certain shortcomings which can be addressed by the lawmakers. So what are certain arguments? No reservation in Rajya Sabha and Legislative Council. We have discussed it just now, that there's no such provision in Rajya Sabha and the Legislative Councils as well. Use of women as proxies. So this is one of the most common issues at village level, at panchayat level. We have seen that the sarpanch is women, but she is used just as a proxy. If she need to be present anywhere, she will be present anywhere. But certain decisions, be it related to that finances or other any administrative decision, they are taken by their husband. So there are certain areas, there are certain flaws that women are used as proxies, that in their name you win the election, then the decision is taken by the male counterpart. So there are certain drawback. Yes, there's this flaw which needs to be addressed, that you can't use women as proxies. Now, against the principle of equality enshrined in the constitution, this was the idea which was debated in the Constituent Assembly, that we can't discriminate on the basis of gender. So we can't gender discriminate. Equal representation for all should be there. And lastly, restriction of choice of voters. Yes, there would be limited choice, and also it can put certain women out of the merit also. So there would be this restriction of choice of voters. So these are certain arguments or certain shortcomings in this bill which needs to be addressed. And I hope you found the session interesting, you found the session helpful, and if you find it helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.